Hi, good afternoon. Welcome to the marketplace. Coming up, independent power producers meet today to decide way forward after government failed to make good on promise to pay part of its debt, which would hit 2.2 billion cedis at the end of this month. Also coming up, a different view. We'll hear from finance expert Dr. Benjamin Amwa, who is optimistic the marginal increase in the policy rate would rather control inflation and have a minimal impact on businesses.
Businesses will not necessarily increase prices because of a 50 basis point increase in policy rate. I don't think banks will quickly also increase their loan rate.
Plus, hospitality industry players call for regulation of activities of Airbnb operators as clients complain of poor standards. My name is Daryl. Kwawu. Thanks for being with us. Details coming up. And thanks for staying with us, everyone. First up, independent power producers are meeting today to decide the way forward over debts owed them by government. Joy Business is learning that the debt owed the IPPs would hit $2.2 billion by the end of this month. The unhappy IPPs have threatened to stop supplying power to the national grid because government has breached its promise to settle part of the debt. On Zoom with me is energy strategist and CEO of Eureka, an energy consultancy firm. Good afternoon to you, Dr. Yusuf Suleimana. Thanks for joining us. So, $2.2 billion at the end of this month. The debt keeps mounting, and it is worrying.
Yeah, good afternoon, Daryl, and good afternoon to Charles US in Ghana and across the globe. Yeah, indeed, that's so worrying and so disturbing to the extent that up to now we seem not to be having a way out of this situation. And I find it quite unfortunate because if you look at the time the IPP started, threatening since last month, the month gravitated to an end only for a last-minute deal, sort of a deal to be reached in a way. But it appears that whatever was reached, one party is not living up to expectation. In this case, the government of Ghana, through the finance ministry, we are told, is not living up to expectation. And I want to just sound this bit of caution that it appears we are not appreciating the gravity of the situation that we are facing here. If you notice, if you roll back, you notice we had quite a number of hitches within the power sector. And I'm saying that the power sector is gravitating towards a difficult terrain if you don't handle it well. And the reason why I'm saying that, if you monitor what's going on now, Ghana, in our peak demand, whatever we consume on peak demand, let's around 7 to 8 p.m., is almost equal to what is available in this case. So, and if you're in that situation, it means that you are sitting on tenterhooks. Number one. Number two, 65 to 70% of our generation is still being occupied by thermal mix, and gas is a carrier. Is the main conduit that supply energy to carry out this kind of power generation. And the IPPs are in the center of all this, in the thermal mix. So if we are not able to handle that because of financial weaknesses from our side, we're not able to handle that, and they live up to the threats that they previously promised, and they stay the course on that, we're going to have difficulties. So I just think that we are not putting our monies where our mouth is. We have to prioritize because they can't give you power and then you are unable to repay back. That is not acceptable. And the negotiation is also not encouraging. Onlookers are watching, and I think what is coming out is not something that is very encouraging, especially to the extent that now we don't have any clear cut inside.
It makes you wonder how these IPPs are surviving and still being able to supply us with power amid this mounting debt. This looks like a ticking time bomb. Indeed,
we are sitting on tenterhooks, like I mentioned. So what I would urge the Minister of Finance to do is to try to engage them, really, because I think there hasn't been any major breakthrough between Minister of Finance and the IPPs. I think they used ECG to front, and ECG came out with something on the table that was pleasing to them. but it's all beginning to appear that it's vaporizing into thin air. Because as we speak now, they are having an emergency meeting to see the way forward. And nobody knows what the outcome of this meeting. We are just watching to find out what the meeting is going to be. But I suspect it's not going to be something positive. What I'm saying, what I'm gathering is that they might be beginning to put another threat on the table. But I will urge that cool heads should prevail. Because like I mentioned earlier on, Daryl, our past situation is not good. And we have to have a firm handle on our revenue generation mix. And I think ECG have started and they are doing something quite substantial and they are doing well. So we just have to make sure that, this inherent inefficiency that we have within our generation, our special distribution mix, we kept them because this has been the root cause of all this. If you give you power and then you cannot return the power back, it means that you're just going to collapse business. And I always mention that we can't afford to allow the distribution chain to bring down all the value chains. That will be dangerous. And so going forward, and the problem seems to be multi-layered or multifaceted. Because like I mentioned earlier on, Daryl, the thermal generation mix is as a result of gas. And if you noticed last time, when Atwabo went down briefly, we almost were subjected to doom. So it does tell us that the gas is what is very important. And I'm also gathering information that the WAPCO guys or West African Gas Pipeline guys are also threatening. So what are we doing to ourselves? It means that we have to tackle the bull by the bull. So it means that even if you have the gas and these WAPCO guys close the valve, it's going to be another issue. So it's all, everything is boiling to the fact that somebody somewhere is holding the whole sector hostage. And if money is not released and released on agency basis, I think we'll go run into difficult times if you're not careful, Daryl.
You see, the challenge, though, is the government is broke. Even if they wanted to prioritize this, they don't have the money.
Daryl, the question is, where has the money gone to? That's very interesting. Because we consume the power. That's very interesting. So we just have to prioritize. We can't say we don't have the money. What we need to do, like I mentioned,
Are you on, Yusuf?
Yeah, okay, Daryl, sorry. Let's just prioritize and make sure that we put the monies where it is important. Because doomsday is not anything that anybody wants to go through. And we all know what doomsday, what comes with doomsday when it hits. And so we can't say we don't have the money. Yes, we are in difficult times, but let's kind of put up a kind of a spirited negotiation ability with respect to the IPPs. I think what is happening now, the negotiation between IPPs and the Ministry of Finance is not moving. There's a huge inertia. It's quite disturbing. So if something is not pledged or you pledge on something and you don't meet that, it's just going to be a problem. And so going forward, holistically, we have to look at the entire chain and make sure that we enhance efficiencies within the chain. Other than that, power given to you and you aren't able to return the money back to those who will give you the power, it's just not sustainable. It cannot work that way.
Well, the government is getting set to present this mid-year budget. One of the things that you have said is that there should be a clear-cut plan to deal with this challenge with the IPPs. What would that plan be?
Yeah, so that was one of the points that I recommended, because when I looked at the power situation, I noticed that that wasn't good. And I'm just saying that in fact, even before this meeting came, what I was thinking or projecting or suspecting that whatever we could not agree upon will come back to hit us. So it didn't take a long time that this is coming again. So what I want to urge the government of Ghana and through the Ministry of Finance, we know we are constrained. That's certainly so. But we need to have a framework, a plan, a clear-cut plan in place where we have to dedicate some amount of money to be able to take care of power that is given out. We can, it's not negotiable. Because if we don't do that, Daryl, we're going to just ground the whole power sector into a hole, and that's not going to be good. How do we do that? I want to urge that gas, as I mentioned, has always been the conduit. And so Ghana Gas, the uptime Ghana Gas has to be consistent. At this moment in time, if Ghana Gas at any point in time falls short, in their ability to supply gas, number one, or if the carrier of the gas or the conduit through this gas move to the utility point, which is Kwawu at this moment, number two, if we are not able to meet these two things, it's going to be difficult. So in the budget, what I expect is that these are crucial things, and energy is key, to economic survival of every nation. Is a lifeblood. I mean, the lifeline, to every economy. So the clear-cut plan that I want the budget to try to address is to have a framework, and the framework is that let's ensure that we have continual gas supply. That's not negotiable because of the fact that 60 to 70% of our generation mix is still the thermal mix, and that will mean that Ghana gas uptime has to be consistent. That's number one. Number two, I also urge that we have to begin to diversify our generation portfolio in a way that if we had actually other alternatives to, let's say, the thermal mix in terms of renewables, I think this perpetual pressure would have been minimized. So going forward, this is just what the government needs to do. Just let's put our money where our mouth is, and in this case, we just have to do everything possible to avoid doing so. And avoiding doing so means that we need to be deliberate. We need to allot the capital that is required, to be able to meet the power sector requirements.
Quick one, 30 seconds. You say the sector cannot also afford any new taxes.
Yeah, indeed. Especially, I was much particular about the petroleum sector of a sort, because I see that it is loaded, and any attempt to put in any more new taxes is going to just make the already exacerbate the already precarious situation. So what I want to urge is that we need to think about propelling economic growth. High taxes on the price buildup will just make this product very expensive. We can do something. We already have quite a number of taxes. If we can't take out any of the taxes, let's just, resist the temptation of putting in more taxes. Because what it will do is that it will skyrocket home prices. And also the world market is something that is not set in Daryl. And so that's why I urge that in this budget, I just want to urge that they should resist the temptation of putting any more taxes within the price buildup. Other than that, it will just worsen the situation.
Great to talk to you as always, Dr. Isi Sulemana, energy strategist, also president of Eureka, which is an energy consultancy firm. I appreciate your time with us. Now, senior finance lecturer at the University of Ghana Business School, Dr. Benjamin Amoah, says a marginal policy rate hike will not have a harsh impact on businesses. The Monetary Policy Committee of the Bank of Ghana on Monday increased its policy rate by 50 basis points to 30%. Meanwhile, Dr. Amoah believes a marginal increase would rather aid in the quest to control inflation. He spoke to Joy Business.
One will not expect a sudden increase in the rates that banks will charge their customers who come in for loans and facilities that are hinged on the MPC rate. So, yes, it is an increase, but it's marginal. We will not be seeing higher hikes in rates going forward. So banks can plan. It's going to be marginal. It's going to be marginal. Businesses will not necessarily increase prices because of a 50 basis point increase in policy rate. I don't think banks will quickly also increase their loan rate because of a 50 basis point increase in hikes. It will lead, but it will not be that marginal like what we're seeing, 150 basis point and 200 basis point increase. Those are quite, huge jumps, but we are not seeing it in this instance. So we expect it to be gradual. Yeah.
Also in the bulletin this afternoon, players in the hospitality industry are calling on the Ghana Tourism Authority to streamline activities of Airbnb operators. The Airbnb operators have been accused of advertising spaces to customers that do not meet the demands of clients when they arrive at the premises. Joining us is President of the Ghana Hotels Association, Edward Akanyameke Jr., to discuss this. Great to have you on the marketplace. So, first question, are there standards for Airbnb operators here in Ghana at all?
Thank you, Daryl, for the opportunity as usual. As far as I know, and as far as the association is concerned, we have no information or idea about the regulation of Airbnb as far as the accommodation space is concerned.
Wow. So what are some of the complaints you hear from customers who patronize Airbnb, and how are those complaints tarnishing Ghana's hospitality industry?
Well, there I must confess, it's not in the form of complaints from users of Airbnb services, but it's just our own considerations on the issues on the ground. Because to begin with, there are security issues when it comes to accommodation. There are safety issues when it comes to accommodation. There are revenue issues in terms of taxes as well. Okay, so with all these, and then of course there are regulatory issues as well. Airbnb is not captured by any of this, which means that when an international visitor comes to the country and then uses the services of Airbnb and something goes wrong, it tarnishes the image of the country, it affects our tourism destination campaign, it affects our numbers as well, and of course it tarnishes the image of the accommodation industry. You know that Airbnb has been in the system for the past 2008. I mean, talking about the global Airbnb. I don't know how long it has been in Ghana. But this is a conversation that has gone on for quite some time, and I think we've gotten to a point where we need to deal with it. Frankly, I don't even know whether it comes under the Ghana Tourism Authority or it comes under rent control, because there are implications based on where each system controls. But if it's under the tourism industry, then it will be treated specifically as an accommodation enterprise. And that's where the regulation about the EPAs and the FDA, data protection, and then the Ghana Tourism Authority itself comes in. Okay, so we need to decide where it belongs and then apply. If it even goes under rent control, then there are revenue issues there, because they are not paying taxes, they are not paying anything to the government. And this is the time we're all crying about revenue. So we need to sit down and decide where this business belongs, and then we deal with it. I mean, when they get the clients, they pay something to Airbnb, somewhere in California, somewhere in the US. They are receiving revenue, but what about the country? What about those receiving revenue here? These are all not captured. And you see, that creates a very unfair competition, as we've been saying. It creates a very unfair competition, okay, with the other businesses in the accommodation space. So we need to address this issue and then address it even like yesterday.
Yeah, my director whispered something to my ear, which I think is a very important point about the fact that Airbnb operators may be taking some revenue off hotels. Is that a concern for you as well?
I have been saying, and let me repeat, it is not a concern to us. What is of concern to us is about the fairness. The fairness. It's about the fair play field for everybody. You see, we are all talking about the development of tourism in the country, and we've been contributing our quota through taxes, through levies, and this is from money that we receive from our clients, and that goes into the rates that we charge. So if somebody is receiving revenue and is not paying any form of taxes or levies, it's not about they being there. After all, we need accommodation for the visitors that will be coming to the country at any time. And the minister mentioned at our NEC meeting that he's trying to even push for 100,000 rooms, hotel rooms, in 10 years. Okay, so it means that there will definitely be the need for rooms, but not under the circumstances that Airbnb is operating at. These are not the kind of accommodation space that we are looking for to develop the industry.
Well, this came up at your National Executive Committee meeting, and so I just wanted to find out, is this something you're going to push?
Well, Daryl, the interesting thing is that we've made our case very clear on this matter. If you go into the archives, we've had the opportunity to talk about this. For me, it's about those in authority. And as I said, I don't even know whether it's a GTA that should spearhead it, or the rent control, or any other public agency. But whoever it is, we need to deal with it. So, like, you've given me this opportunity to talk about this. I hope somebody is listening to take the right step to ensure that there's sanity in the system.
The budget is coming up next week. One of the things the Hotels Association is concerned about is taxes, right?
Daryl, you are right. You are right. And let me expand it by saying that we all appreciate the situation we find ourselves in. We all appreciate that we are in distress and we need to come out of it. But our point is that we need to approach this with a human face. I think we are losing that human touch to solving the problem. And you see, we are beginning to hide under technology, under digitalization, to impose all kinds of interesting taxes and levies on people. Daryl, let me talk about property rates now. I'm sure you know that GRA has taken our property rate and it's under my assembly.gov. Exactly. Now, if you go on that system and you get to know the astronomical increases in property rate for properties, you will be amazed. It is terrible. And the system is said that who are you going to discuss issues like that with? Okay, we would have expected that we had a certain property rate system in place. If there's going to be any changes, at least let's look at the increases that property owners are going to encounter. If you increase property rates over 300, 400, 500%, how do you expect businesses to survive? Again, it's also related to this utility tariffs. We should stop hiding under public agencies, public commissions, to slap businesses with all kinds of taxes. PURC did the same thing with the tariff adjustment for February. And as we speak, hoteliers are dealing with debt that has been created for those 4 months. It is not fair. We appreciate that we need to deal with the situation we find ourselves in. But when we are approaching the solution with the strategies and ways that is going to put people further down the debt ladder, it is unacceptable. We need, and I hope that the finance minister, in presenting his budget, will present something that takes a holistic picture of what is going on. Because you see, when water increases by 167%, it's like, oh, it's just water. But the same thing is going for electricity. The same thing is going for property rate. The same thing is going for tax. And please, Daryl, before you go, that COVID-19 1% levy that we are still paying, I hope that when the minister reads his budget, he will say that that thing has outlived its importance, so it is no more going to be received or paid for.
I don't think so. I doubt they'll do that. But thank you so much. We will be...
But that is not fair.
Am I supposed to answer that question?
Please don't.
Always a pleasure to speak with you, Edward Akinyameke, who is president of the Ghana Hotels Association. But salient points you raised there, and we're just hoping that you get a listening ear. Well, also, the Ashanti Regional Minister, Simon Osemens, has touted the sound investment opportunities in the region, especially in the real estate and hospitality industries. He says the sectors are receiving some support from the government, though the economy is bedeviled with debt servicing and other capital expenditure challenges. The minister believes private investments in housing and tourism will be profitable to investors. Here's more in this report.
The real estate sector and hospitality industries have not been spared the brutal effect of the COVID-19 pandemic. The slow economic growth has compounded the challenges. However, the country's increasing urbanization rates will require significant investment in housing and the hospitality sector. Ashanti Regional Minister Simon Osei-Mensah wants the private sector to take the task of property development to accommodate the speedy rise of population. He was speaking at the grand opening of Veronique Heights Apartments in Kumasi.
It presents a lot of opportunities for real estate development in country, and especially the Ashanti region. As you might be aware, when you come to Ashanti region, especially Kumasi, we don't have such furnished apartments, many of them. We have just some few. So adding this one to the few that we have in this region is going to boost maybe tourism and then the hospitality industry. The standard is very high. You can find a standard to be equal to whatever you find across the group. Anytime I find the private sector developing like this, I'm enthused. I'm very happy because they are contributing towards the fast development of the country.
The Veronique Heights apartments contains fully furnished service apartments for rent, short or long-term stay. Ashanti Hene's Hiahene or Heneba Professor Boachi Eji Abibio observed similar apartments in the Kumasi metropolis have fallen apart as a result of poor maintenance. He wants Veronique Heights to live up to its name.
We've seen how so many complexes and structures and industries and organizations have been established, but they didn't live to last as long as we had hoped for. Maintenance is very critical to sustain any development.
Chief Executive Officer of Veronique Heights, Ernest Sahene, says such ultra-modern and multi-purpose apartment with attractive scenery will give Kumasi a facelift.
The construction of Veronique Heights is meant to give Kumasi a difference in the apartment service industry.
For Joy Business, Mona Lisa Frimpong reporting.
And that's our bulletin this afternoon. A quick run through our top stories on our website, myjoyonline.com/business. Policy rate to be kept at 30% at next MPC meeting. That's according to Fish Solutions, their prediction. You can read more about that on our website, myjoyonline.com/business. Thanks for watching. We'll be back same time tomorrow.